Makabe was a fat loser who fell in love with his childhood crush, who rejected him for looking like a Discord mod. However, his life takes a turn when he hits the gym and becomes the Chad that all girls want. Now he have the mission to make his old crush fall in love with him so he can clap her in revenge. One day, after Makabe finishes up his workout, he finds Chinatsu in his room while striking poses in the mirror. This pisses him off and he scolds her for coming into his room without consent. After the two argue for a while, she finally makes him pipe down and they head down for breakfast with his mom. He meets another dilemma as the food served was full of calories, which would destroy his summer body, and when he refuses the meal, his mom goes into a frenzy. After this, he sets out to school and on his way to school, keeps admiring himself in every reflection like a narcissist. He also reminds himself of his ideology about physical looks being everything in life, and as he walks into school, the ladies feast their eyes on his chiseled jawline. Just then, he takes a moment to learn jiggle physics from the female tennis players in action, and unfortunately gets caught. Just as he thinks he's toast, they walk right past him and start interrogating a poor soul beside him. Feeling relieved, he decides to slip away but gets cornered by a flock of babes, as one of them notices he's the new transfer student. They start glazing him and asking him to join their practice. As soon as he realizes he is the main character, he begins acting like a douchebag, which for some reason works on the hotties. While walking to class, he meets a crowd of students spectating the loser version of Minato making a public confession to the most popular girl in school. After making her entrance, she proceeds to roast him like a Thanksgiving turkey, revealing the cringe things he does which make everyone's skin crawl. Witnessing this, they're all reminded why they nicknamed her the Cruel Princess, and Makabe is scared out of his mind as it's an eye-opener to how cruel the city is. Later in class, while drooling all over his table, Makabe has a nightmare and screams as he wakes up. Even when he thinks he's lost some aura points by doing so, he realizes he has gotten away with it as the class rep still talks to him normally. While they're talking, Shuri walks in and hands him part of his lunch, and although he appreciates the dude, he realizes he has to put in some extra sets while working out later to burn the surplus calories. Shortly after, the cruel queen barges into their classroom and turns her attention to his classmate, who wrote a love letter to her, tearing him to pieces along with his letter, then walks out on them. Makabe is pissed off by how rude she is, and Shuri explains that she is at the top of the food chain at the school with both beauty and brains, but has a rotten attitude, and makes a mockery of guys that ask her out. He then mentions her family name, which immediately triggers Makabe, causing him to rush after her to stare her down, excited that he didn't expect to meet her so soon. Later on, while having lunch at the cafeteria, Makabe channels his inner Joe Goldberg, making notes about Princess Cruella to find out what she likes, and he finds that she surrounds herself with only girls, as they seem to adore her. However, he finds it weird that she doesn't eat lunch with them, and starts tailing her, hoping to get some dirt on her. After a while, he spots Yoshino sneaking around and follows her to an abandoned warehouse, where he sees her handing Aki a lunchbox. Just then, he spots a spider and screams out in fear, blowing his cover. To manage the situation, he apologizes for eavesdropping, stating that he understands she may have a diet as she is very athletic, seeing the high-calorie lunch she's eating. He soon realizes he may have struck gold, as he notices 3 empty lunchboxes beside her, and that she's still hungry as her stomach chants for food. Seeing his expression, she goes into a frenzy, explaining that she has an abnormally high metabolism that makes her hungry all the time. And as he tries slipping away, she threatens him if he tells anyone about what he saw. A couple of days later, during PE class, his friend lets Makabe know about the rumor of romance between him and Aki, as they've been together most of the time for some days, but in reality, Aki is just making sure he doesn't let out her secret while also using him as a slave. Just then, he gets hit in the head with a ball and his attacker warns him not to be full of himself while the hotties rush to check on him. This makes his spidey sense tingle and he suspects he can take advantage of the situation. Later that day, as Aki heads home with her butler, she suddenly craves a quick snack and sends her butler to get something for her. Soon after she leaves, Aki is confronted by the guy she had ripped apart like a jigsaw puzzle, and while she still mocks him, he angrily grabs in hair, intending to cut her hair. However, Makabe stops him just in time and scares the dude away. Even though his hands hurt like crazy, he tries to aura farm, keeping his composure, and walks off into the sunset, thinking back on how he met Aki when they were kids and she broke his heart, calling him pig feet, and his resolve to get back at her. The following day, Makabe does his usual cool guy act, impressing all the girls around, and when he opens his locker, he falls off with pig's foot written on it, which makes him panic. While in class, Makabe becomes paranoid like he's a medicinal snow addict, trying to figure out who sent the note, and he starts suspecting everyone in the class, but can't figure out any of their motives for doing so. He gets so worked up that he almost has a heart attack as he thinks of how he'd be treated if word got out of him being a fat kid in the past. Meanwhile, everyone worries about him. It gets so bad that he can't even focus in class, and later on while hanging around the school hall, he thinks of how he'd have wasted 8 years of his life getting hot and changing his last name if Aki were to find out his secret, putting more pressure on himself. Just then, a mob of students rush to get their lunch from the cafeteria, and Makabe spots Aki's underling struggling to get past the crowd. She is spit out of the crowd, and Makbi gets to see a bit of heaven as she falls in front front of him. When he checks on her, she hands him the list of what she wants to get while talking like a crazy person, and the sump can't resist helping a damsel in distress. After getting her lunch for her, he decides to tag along while she delivers the food to Aki. To find out if the note is from Aki, she initially tries sneaking away, but he traps her in a sus way and teases her a bit to convince her to let him follow, promising to not get her in trouble with Aki. So she agrees. While on their way, seeing how terrified she looked, Makabe thinks of her as Cinderella being maltreated by Aki the stepmother. Later at the warehouse, while Yoshino rushes out to get drinks for Aki, Makabe barges in and he is amazed by how much food she has consumed. They chat a bit and he lets her know of the struggles he's experiencing, from the wound he sustained while saving her, to mess with her head, and expose if she sent the note, but he is disappointed to find that she didn't. Just then, Yoshino walks in and trips on the door, falling into a yoga position, and Aki harvests Makabe's eyes so he doesn't see paradise. After this, Yoshino hands him a drink as consolation, which makes Aki scold her, pissing Makabe off, and he puts the moves on her to tease her, telling her to rely more on him before walking out. Seeing how flawlessly he executed his act, he becomes excited as his time spent studying his sister's romance novels wasn't wasted. Meanwhile, Yoshino seems to get an uneasy feeling about Makabe. Later that day, while Makabe makes his way home, plotting his next move on Aki, he gets caught in a trap, and Yoshino shows up, calling him Pig's Foot, and asking if he wants to get into Aki's pants. Confused as to why she would know his nickname as a kid, he soon realizes that she was always with him as a kid. And after freeing him from the trap, she explains that her family had served Aki's family for generations. This makes him realize she was never maltreated but Aki's loyal lapdog, and he gets frustrated as he realizes his plans for revenge are ruined. He lets her know that he wants to give her a taste of her own medicine, and he is surprised when she tells him to go ahead with his plans, even offering to help him. Later on, Makabe still has his doubts about Yoshino's proposal and tries to figure out her intentions, but he makes up his mind to go ahead with his plans anyway, starting with getting her email. Just then, he spots Futaba, and the two talk about him adjusting to the school. He then offers to help her carry the papers she was holding to the teacher's office, and decides to rehearse getting a girl's contact using her. However, reality hits him as he has never done this before, and he immediately chickens out as he finds it difficult to ask for her contact. Following this, he meets his best bud, asking if sharing emails would expose the number of contacts he has, and he is relieved when he replies it won't, since Ali won't find out he has never asked anyone for their contact and ruin his plan. While thinking of a way to get her mail, Futaba reveals that a member of Aki's beautification committee just quit, and Makabe immediately volunteers to join as it's the perfect opportunity for him. However, as he tries meeting with her after school, she simply ignores him, which hurts his ego, making him think twice about joining the committee and triggering his low self-esteem, making him doubt if he can make a hottie like Aki falls for him. Just then, Futabu walks in on him, apologizing for bugging him with the club's activities, stating that she knows she's not like him, as he always offers to help with hesitating. Seeing the kawaii expression on her face, Makabe immediately realizes she's feeling him, and she asks if they can see a movie sometime. With every fiber of his being, Makabe turns her down as his main objective is Aki, and she apologizes for asking him out so. Suddenly, before running off, this makes Makabe realize he is the school's popular hot guy, and while he is smiling from ear to ear, he notices Aki standing behind him, who has seen everything that happened. While they talk, he notices some jealousy in her tone and explains that he doesn't care for just any random bimbo. In response, she asks who he would like to go out with, and without hesitation, he asks her out, thinking it's the perfect time. To his surprise, she simply thanks him, and when he asks for her email, she immediately agrees to give him, which stuns him. She, however, asks that she give it to him during their next duty as her phone isn't good at the moment, which he agrees to. On the scheduled day, Makabe ends up waiting for a while before finding a note that leads to a chain of hints leading right back to where he started, only for him to see her standing in the school compound with a banner that says, "I decline," which pisses him off. The following day in school, Futaba rushes in to announce that whoever fails the midterms will have to go for supplementary classes for a month while they're on holiday, causing everyone to panic. However, Makabe looks so cool and he says they'll be fine, but soon swallows his words when he finds that his best bud is in the academic danger zone. While Makabe consoles him, Futaba's face turns into a tomato as she's lost in Fantasyland, shipping the guys together. During lunch break, Makabe takes him to the library to tutor him and meets Aki there, who reveals that she's tutoring Yoshino. Aki then states that she's shocked that the bird brain can teach anyone anything to mock him. And this gives Makabe the idea to place a bet based on who'll score the highest between both pairs. And if he loses, he'll have to wear whatever nickname she'll give him on his back for the rest of the school term, but she'll go out with him if he wins. They both agree to this, and Makabe feels confident, thinking Yoshino would back him. Later that evening, while Aki tutors Yoshino, she finds out he is way smarter than she thought as Yoshino reveals that he got a perfect score on the entrance exam. This shakes her up a bit, but Yoshino promises to have her back all the way, handing her some sort of love picture album as their last resort. Meanwhile, Makabe is busy taking a million years to call Yoshino, and he almost passes out when she calls him first. She tells him she can't help him win his wager as he didn't consult her before placing the bet, and Makabe begins to panic. The next day, Shuri's scores don't seem to improve even when he claims to have studied hard, but Makabe tells him not to worry too much while passing by. Ali tests him with some questions which he answers easily, but he realizes he has to work twice as hard as he can rely on Shuri. The next couple of days, Makabe works his bum off tutoring Shuri and studying, which shocks his little sister since she expected him to be working out while his mom supports him by bringing him meals. On the day of the test, Makabe asks if Shuri is prepared and he replies he is confident thanks to him. Makabe then decides to get something to drink and he meets Yohino at the vending machine, who apologizes for not supporting him. But he says it is okay since he started the fight without consulting her, adding that he worked hard and is confident he'll win. While handing him a drink, she replies that it doesn't matter anymore and runs off, which confuses Makabe. As the tests begin, Makabe suddenly develops a running stomach and thinks Yoshino put laxatives on the drink she gave him. He becomes pissed as he thinks she wouldn't stoop so low to win the wager, but when he rushes to confront Amu in her class, he finds that she was absent from school, which automatically wins him the bet. Afterward, he discovers that the cause of his running stomach is the breakfast his mom made and ends up taking the supplementary class with Aki. Although their bet ended in a draw, Yoshino still sets up a date for Makabe and Aki to go out, then mocks him for giving up so easily when he gets surprised. On the scheduled day, Makabe is shocked to meet Aki wearing what looks like a fairy costume and saves her from a creep who is harassing her. When he asks what she's wearing, she claims he isn't experienced in the dating field, and it's a usual thing for girls to wear costumes on their first date to break the ice. However, he soon finds that Yoshino convinced her to wear that, as she'll believe anything she tells her, and Yoshino tells him to trust her plan, while he makes up his mind to give his all to score some points with her. Afterward, Makabe meets up with Aki, and when he expresses his surprise that she agreed to go out on a date with him, she defensively says that Yoshino put her up to it since he was so heartbroken from failing the test. After watching a movie, the two hang out at a cafe and Makabe is amazed by how much food she is consuming. Just then, a little kid confronts her about her dress, and before she can make a fool of herself, Makabe runs off with her. He then explains that Yoshini lied to her, which upsets her, and they decide to get her some clothes at a mall nearby. While changing, she lets out a scream of frustration and Makabe rushes to check on her, but gets a knuckle sandwich as a reward. Aki, however, watches over him while he's passed out, and he realizes that she hasn't changed that much since they were kids. After apologizing for barging in on her, the two go their separate ways, and while Yoshino gets an update on how the date went, she reveals that she is backing his plan to help Aki learn a bit of humility. The next day, after he had studied his sister's rom-com mangas for pickup lines to use on Aki, Makabe feels fully equipped to enter the next phase of his revenge plan on Aki like he's Batman with prep time. When he arrives in class, he specifically sits beside her, which gives her the ick, but she continues doing her thing. He, however, does not stop staring at her, and when she asks why he's being a creep, he drops a whack line about having eyes only for her, draining the life out of her own eyes. After school, Aki gets impatient while waiting for Yoshino to get her umbrella as it is pouring heavily, and Makabe shows up out of nowhere, handing her an umbrella, then drops another whack line that makes her skin crawl before rushing into the rain, thinking he nailed it. However, Yoshina meets up with him later on to let him know that Aki thinks his lines are hot dookie, which triggers him as he spent a lot of time mastering those lines, and she advises him to switch things up, give her some distance by being cold to her before she heads back home. Her advice does not sit right with Makabe as he thinks she may end up hating him, or just stop talking to him altogether, destroying the progress he's made so far. The following day, when he runs into her in the school's hallway, he fights the urge to talk to her and just walks by her even when she tries returning his umbrella. Then he keeps treating her like a ghost for the next couple of days, staying far away from her like she had a new strain of COVID-19. And this hurts him a lot as he thinks it'll go on like that forever. This continues until she decides to confront him, and her attitude seems more aggressive than he expected, so he tries to bail on her, but she tosses the umbrella at him and blocks his path. Finally, he finds an escape route, but she tackles him to the floor, asking why he has been ignoring her, so he assumes his wish of making her fall for him is over. However, he is surprised to see her in a very vulnerable state and decides to give up on his ignoring act, telling her he did it on purpose. Although she says he's awful for doing so, he sees this as an opportunity to come clean and confess his feelings. But before he can complete his confession, she asks why he likes her. He thinks of all the reasons he likes her, but refuses to tell her, giving the excuse of not thinking it through before running off to Yoshino. When they meet, she is disappointed that he hasn't thought that far, and he begs her to tell him that perfect line that'll make her heart explode. The following day, as he's about to drop a letter at Aki's locker like Yoshino advised, Aki runs into him, so he hands her the letter containing his feelings for her, but she tosses it in the trash, claiming she hates him. He tries explaining himself, but she shuts him up, stating she sees through his playboy act and then runs off while he tries to stop her. Just then, Yoshino meets him and he expresses his confusion about her mood since she was so cute the previous day, which made him think things were going well. When Yoshino says she'll take it from there, he becomes giddy, but his happiness is cut short when she tells him to butt out of her plan since he can't even tell a girl why he likes her. This hurts him deeply, and he decides to not be a loser by taking matters into his own hands. Meanwhile, Aki is feeling heartbroken at a park close by because she had seen him run off to meet Yoshino the last time she met Makabe, which made her think there was something between them, and she felt played as she thought he was two-timing them. Just then, Yoshino meets her there, and Aki asks why she didn't tell her about her thing with Makabe, trying to put up a tough act. In response, she explains that she met Makabe to advise him about his relationship with her, also adding that he emailed and called her, but she still acts like it wasn't getting to her, claiming she can never be hurt by a loser like Makabe. However, Yoshino sees through her act, but Aki says she won't get hurt by a guy again, unlike in the past, and she's not going to fall in love with Makabe. Yoshino then tells her it's okay to let her guard down as Makabe has eyes for her only, and she knows Aki likes him too. But before Aki can deny this, Yoshino pulls a Batman disappearance on her. On her way back home, she keeps thinking about how she had kept her distance from people to protect her heart, and while lost in thought, she walks into the middle of the road. Before a car could run into her, Yoshino pulls her away and scolds her for putting herself in danger, as it almost gave him a heart attack. Seeing how much he cares, she almost tells him how she feels about him, but gets interrupted by some bimbo who almost runs her over. The chick suddenly runs into Makabe's arms, claiming she has been longing to see him, confusing Makabe as he doesn't know the chick. While Makabe drools over her like a bulldog, the mysterious girl thanks God for reuniting her with him. Although he thinks she has the wrong guy, then the girl's bodyguard takes her away, leaving Makabe confused. This makes Aki almost blow her head off in anger, and even when he tries clearing up his name, she leaves angrily without believing him. The next day, while thinking of a way to pacify Aki, he suffers through the lunch crowd to get Aki a lot of snacks to bribe her, since she won't be able to refuse to talk to him if he gives her food. But when he arrives at the gym storage room, he is ambushed by Yoshino, who reveals that she has the order not to let him get close into the warehouse. When she asks what he did to piss her off, he tells her what happened with the mysterious girl, and that also angers Yoshino since she doesn't believe him either. She accuses him of being a greedy douchebag and that he doesn't understand the situation, before leaving him to fend for himself. Seeing she has forsaken him, he tries coming up with tacky lines to deliver while giving her the food, but ends up leaving them at the door, and as soon as he turns his back, Aki grabs them without him seeing her. While trying to figure stuff out, Makabe doesn't sleep even a little that night, and develops dark circles under his eyes the next day. But he still can't stop thinking about the mysterious girl, which makes his friends worry about him. Suddenly, the mysterious chick enters the classroom as the teacher announces the arrival of a transfer student, and she introduces herself as Neko while the whole class glazes her. Later on, Makabe decides to talk to her before the next period, but she is soon surrounded by a bunch of her girls admiring her, and during the next break gives it another go, but the crowd of bimbos block him off. After a while, his friends come up with the plan of sending Shuri in to infiltrate the fortitude of girls, but Makabe gathers the courage to move in regardless of the crowd. Before he can utter a word, the girls let out a scream and tell him that according to the new girl, she transferred schools because of him, which catches him off guard. She then narrates how 3 years ago she was asking for donations for charity on a cold winter night, and Makabe gave her his jacket to protect her from the cold, and then donated to her cause, rizzing her up. Since that moment, she said she has been hooked on him, and the girls get excited by the story. However, Makabe is in shock as he was still a fatty 3 years back. Meanwhile, the whole class eats up her lies, so he decides to run with her somewhere private to confront her, but she soon trips and starts coughing up something red, which makes him freak out, looking for help. However, when he's about to call an ambulance, he spots a ketchup sachet fall from her hand, which triggers him. He then asks why she lied to their class, and she says she's too embarrassed to tell the truth, further confusing Makabe, and while he digs further, she just says that she has been yearning for him. Even though he finds Nico very cute unlike Aki, he rejects her because he must focus on his revenge and tells her that he likes someone else, which saddens Nico. However, she asks him to show her the girl in question, and he takes her to Aki's classroom, thinking that upon seeing Aki, she will give up on him. On the contrary, Neko sees Aki and thinks that it will be easy to get rid of her, then enters the classroom to introduce herself to Aki, telling her that she envies that she has Makabe's affection. Suddenly, a gust of wind lifts Nico's skirt, revealing that she is in the ranks of the commandos, which makes Makabe's face red. Seeing this, Nico meets him and says she's just glad that she was able to meet him, and this makes Aki more upset with her, causing her to storm out of the class. Immediately, Makabe chases after her, saying that he doesn't know Neko, but Aki doesn't believe him, and accidentally punches a teacher while struggling with Makabe. Later on, as punishment, the teacher sends them to clean the pool, and Aki is still angry with him, so she gets as far away from him as she can, which pisses him off. So he sprays her with a hose to annoy her, and to get back at him, she fills a bucket with water to throw at him, but slips and falls into the pool, making Makabe glad. However, he notices she seems to be drowning and quickly jumps in to save her, but later finds out that her feet can touch the bottom of the pool. She mocks him because he didn't want to get wet, and he says that his body jumped on its own, then yells at her, saying if he said he saved her because he liked her, she wouldn't believe him since she has her guard up. Just as he is about to give up on her, she says that if he likes her, he should prove it to her, and when he asks what he could do, she replies that he could kiss her. Meanwhile, Yoshino is stuck waiting for Aki in the school compound, and Neko meets her there, asking where she could find Makabe. In response, Yoshino asks why she thought she knew his whereabouts, and Neko says she had a hunch that she'd know them. The two sit there in awkward silence. While in the pool, Makabe panics because he always believed that his revenge plan would end with asking him to kiss her and rejecting her. But now, she wants him to kiss her in the middle of his plan. She mocks him as she notices him hesitating to come close to her. But since he must do it, he imagines that she is a ham and tries to kiss her. But she panics and punches him, which makes him confused and pissed. Fortunately for both of them, Futaba and the swim team show up asking what they were doing, so he explains that they were cleaning up the pool and decided to cool off in it for a while. They then ask for the pool for practice, and before leaving, Aki tells Makabe that she now believes that he likes her, but she doesn't care. After that, Makabe goes to the schoolyard to dry in the sun, and Nico meets him there. She pours him a cup of tea containing supplements, which he finds weird at first, and she explains that it is to warm him up since it is not good to lower his temperature. She then starts blabbing about the benefits of teas and electrolytes, but as a gym bro, he couldn't care less, making her pout, which he finds cute. Unexpectedly, he throws her a trick question, asking her what she likes about him like Aki asked him, and it is something impossible to answer because she didn't know anything about him, so her wrong answer will give him a chance to easily shoot down her feelings towards him. To his surprise, Nico says that she likes that he is so modest that he doesn't know his charms, telling him he's a nice person, and with that, she walks off, leaving him mind blown. Later on, Neko is followed by Yoshino as she has a bad feeling about Neko and wants to find out what she is up to. But when they arrive at Makabe's house, Yoshino is discovered by Neko's butler, who wants all the smoke from Yoshino, but Neko tells her to stand down. Even in that situation, Yoshino still tries to act clueless, but gives up the act when Neko says that it must be hard being Aki's assistant. Yoshino asks what she wants from Makabe, to which Neko insists that he saved her a few years ago, generating more distrust from Yoshino, but just then, Makabe's mother sees them outside and takes them into the house. Meanwhile, as Makabe is on his way back, he plans on using Nico's reply to his question about Aki the next time they meet, and when gets home he thinks that he came to the wrong house because he meets both Neko and Yoshino cooking in his kitchen, but snaps back to reality when he sees his mom. After freaking out for a while, he suddenly takes Yoshino to his room and asks why they're in his house. So she explains to him that his mom saw them and immediately went into a frenzy, thinking that she and Nico were his fans running around the house, and decided to teach them how to cook fried shrimp. After hearing this, Makabe gets into panic mode and wants to get them out of the house as quickly as possible, but Yoshino is more concerned with exploring his room, which is full of exercise machines. Suddenly, Neko enters the room too and says that it is a perfect room for rehabilitation, which scares Makabe, who immediately drags her out of there, after which he takes them down to eat. When they get to the table, Makabe becomes stiff with fear as the food is so high in calories, and to not be rude, he takes the fried breading off the shrimp to reduce the calorie load. Meanwhile, Neko just eats a bunch of supplement pills and vitamins with tea, which angers Makabe's mom, but she soon calms down because Yoshino seems to be enjoying the meal. Shortly after, Chinatsu suggests ending the night by playing with fireworks in the yard, although Makabe thinks they should leave immediately. However, the girls proceed to put on yukatas, and while Neko helps Chinatsu with her yukata, Yoshino trauma dumps on Makabe, telling him about the firework experiments Aki used her to perform, making him pity her. Later on, after watching the fireworks with Neko, Makabe's mom brings out some watermelon for them to munch on, and while they are having fun, Makabe internally thanks his sister for taking the girls out of the house, and can't stop admiring Nico as she seems like a kind of pretty girl. He thinks maybe if she wasn't a pathological liar, he would fall for her, but that doesn't matter because he should focus on his revenge plan against Aki. Later on, Nico's butler picks her up and Makabe accompanies Yoshino to the main road to take a taxi, and she asks him not to get entangled by Nico. Meanwhile, back at home, Makabe's mother and Chinatsu are overjoyed to see him doing well socially. They had always worried that he might grow up to be a lonely boy, withdrawn and isolated, especially given his quiet nature and rocky past. Now, watching him interact with others and form bonds, they're pleasantly surprised. His mom in particular feels a strange sense of familiarity when she sees one of the girls he's been hanging around with. She's almost certain she's seen her before, though she can't quite place where or when. The next day at school, Makabe gathers his courage and corners Aki for a private conversation. With a sincere expression, he tells her that he admires how modest she is, so much so that she doesn't even seem to recognize her own charms. Aki, however, narrows her eyes at him and responds coldly, saying that she's not fooled by such a cliché line. She knows her worth perfectly well and she refuses to fall for empty flattery. Yoshino, who overhears the exchange, is visibly irritated. She can't believe Makabe would be so clueless as to recycle a line that Neko once used, especially on Aki of all people. To her, it's a foolish move that only complicates an already tense dynamic, and she's starting to wonder what exactly Makabe is trying to accomplish. Days later, they finish up with their exams and summer finally begins. While in class, Aki suddenly barges in, yelling at Makabe as he had continued with his plan, by plotting to spend the summer with Aki, and previously he left Aki a pamphlet, inviting her to the beach for some alone time together. However, she rejects him, saying that she's going to spend her summer on a remote island, and to make him jealous, she invites Shuri to come with her, but poor Shuri panics and hugs Makabe, saying that he will go if Makabe comes along. This gives Makabe the upper hand, saying that they are a package deal, which frustrates Aki, and to make matters worse, Neko and Futaba invite themselves. Seeing this, Makabe dares her to say no since she'll spend her whole summer alone on the island, and Aki is forced to agree to let them all go with her to the island. Days later, everyone takes a yacht heading to the island, and Yoshino decides to have a chat with Makabe to tell him that she has been investigating Miko for days and was unable to find a connection between him. Even with this, he doesn't give it much thought as nothing explains her attachment to him and says she should not worry as his revenge will not be shaken by Neko. However, Yoshino warns that if he does not make any progress with Aki on the island, she will tell the whole truth to Aki, which scares the crap out of him. On arrival at the island, they are greeted by Aki's father's secretary, who looks kind, but inside, she's an angry woman who just got her heart broken, and seeing Aki with a boy triggers her. Meanwhile, Makabe can't stop thinking about Yoshino's warning, so he decides to be bolder and takes a huge risk by introducing himself to Yusaki as Aki's boyfriend, thinking it'll score him some emotional points with Aki. This leaves everyone speechless, and Aki sends him flying from her embarrassment. To Aki's surprise, Yuzaki says that she's glad Aki is over her boy-hating phase, and that a boyfriend may help her get fat in the right places, making Aki blush. Suddenly, Aki takes Makabe somewhere private to talk and complains to him about what he did, but he slightly says that she could have refused to go along with it, but she didn't. He goes on to say that it's because she likes to keep up appearances, and Aki does not deny it, instead says that this will all be an act, and if he takes advantage of the situation, she will deny the relationship in front of everyone. Later on, they all put on their swimsuits and head to the beach. On arrival, Makabe shows off his body but is embarrassed as everyone ignores his showboat except Shuri. While he chats with Shuri, Neko pulls up to meet them and clings to Makabe, then starts flirting with him, which makes him panic. Fortunately or him, Aki appears and separates them, reminding Neko that they are dating, and if Yuzaki sees her offering herself that way, she will think that Makabe is a cheap playboy and Neko will be seen as the girl who got played. Something embarrassing to her family, making Neko back off for now. After that, Aki takes Makabe to another side of the beach, away from the others, and orders him to bring her some food, which shocks him as he was expecting her to get all lovey-dovey. But she says no one is around, so she doesn't have to put on an act. Even though he's pissed off, Makabe heads out to get the food as he's already used to it and meets Yuzaki already preparing a meal for Aki. Yuzaki then comments that he must truly love Aki since he's running such errands for her, and he just sighs. Then he asks what things they can do on the island for fun. In response, Yuzaki lists a number of events and with an evil smile tells him that they can take a courage test, which Makabe thinks will be a great idea to make on Aki. While he returns with the food to Aki, Yuzaki plans to use the courage test to keep him away from Aki, and thinks back to when she started working with Aki's family. Soon after she arrived, she met a very sad Aki because her plump friend had just left her without telling her anything, and this caused Aki to hate all boys. Seeing Aki reject all advances made towards her is something that pleases Yuzaki because she hates men too, but she is worried that Makabe would lead Aki astray. That night, everyone gets together to enter the haunted house, where Yuzaki recommended and Makabe plans to play the night in Gamur, intending to make Aki fall for him. Waiting for them, there's Yuzaki with a mask to scare Makabe and make him look ridiculous in front of Aki, but everything goes wrong because she runs into Yoshino, who is also wearing a mask. She gets scared and runs away horrified, then sees Neko, who spills some ketchup from her mouth, but Yaki thinks she's a ghost, making her run into a pole as she goes into a frenzy. When she opens her eyes, she's being carried on Makabe's back, and he confesses that he asked Yoshino to help scare Aki so that he can save her and look like a hero, which makes Yuzaki feel guilty since apparently Makabe is a good boy and really in love with Aki. A few days after, the trip on the island comes to an end, and Makabe is unable to advance with Aki, but fortunately Yoshino tells him that she will not tell the truth to Aki, saying that he improved his relationship with Aki, but tells him not to slack off. Back in the city, while Makabe admires his body after a workout session, he receives a call from Aki which leaves him so surprised that he takes a while to answer. She says that they should meet because he forgot some clothes on the island, and she wants to return them to him. That same night, he goes to meet Yoshino and tells her the good news about Aki wanting to see him, since it shows he made progress with gear, but she gets worried, asking him to process the situation carefully before acting, because a little slip-up could destroy all his efforts. Upon returning home, he starts doing his summer school homework, and realizes that the photo of him with Aki is not in his drawer, which makes him freak out. He soon figures that Neko is the culprit. The next day, Aki meets up with Makabe at a cafe and she returns his clothes, stating that she wanted to mail them, but Yuzaki forced her to hand them to him personally, making him happy since he knows he has an ally in her. While they talk, he can't stop thinking about the lost photo and that Neko would recognize Aki in the picture, but he isn't sure she'll know he's the fatty in the photo. While he continues not paying attention to Aki, she tells him that Futaba invited them to go to the pool, but she gets angry because he doesn't respond to her. So she leaves suddenly, saying it seems she's bothering him, which bothers Makabe. This makes him realize he's getting too distracted, and just then, he receives a call from Neko, inviting him to the pool with her, but suddenly changes her mind, asking him to meet her right now since she's alone. The simp couldn't refuse her invitation and rushes to her place. When he arrives at her house, he gets so nervous to go in since he's not used to visiting girls, but he finally grows some balls and forges ahead. She asks how he came so fast and he makes up an excuse of just being in the area, which she gobbled up, while she boils tea for him. He then asks for directions to the bathroom as an excuse to find her room to recover the photo she took. He finally finds her room since her desk is full of pills and vitamins, but he also finds his favorite manga, and while he's distracted, she unfortunately enters the room. She says she got to know about the manga since she saw it in his room, and this confirms she took it. So he stops pretending and asks her for his photo. She immediately owns up to taking it and pulls it out of her bouncy inventory, telling him that she stole it because he looks so cute. Although he doesn't believe her because when he was a child he was very chubby, but Neko doesn't care about that, which almost makes him cry since no one ever told him that. Then she suddenly moves closer to him and kisses him. This is the virgin's first kiss, and he can't believe how soft a girl's lips are. While he's still processing everything, she throws him onto the bed, making him rethink all of his life decisions about revenge and life. She then climbs on top of him after assuring him they'll not be interrupted. He lets her do it since nothing matters for a tiny moment. Not even his revenge, but the memories of his hard childhood and the assault he experienced as a fatty brings him back to his senses, and he moves away from her. Before leaving, he tells her that he realized that she doesn't really like him, as she doesn't know how deep he suffered, and she doesn't know how to answer him, which shows him that it is true. He gets up to leave, and while walking away, she accuses him of choosing Aki over her, confess that this is his revenge. Neko then lies there crying and wondering if this is the famous heartbreak that she read so much about. The next day, all the friends meet outside the pool and Makabe shows up looking like crap, while Futaba tells them that Neko won't come because she feels sick. However, Makabe feels a little guilty and thinks he's the major reason she didn't show up. They spend the entire day engaging in various fun and lighthearted activities, enjoying each other's company in what is supposed to be a cheerful and relaxing outing. However, despite the seemingly pleasant atmosphere, Makabe remains visibly uneasy and on edge throughout the day. His discomfort doesn't go unnoticed, especially by Aki, who begins to pick up on the subtle signs that something is clearly bothering him, although she doesn't immediately confront him about it. Later on, feeling overwhelmed and needing some space, Makabe quietly slips away from the group without drawing much attention. He finds Yoshino and takes the opportunity to speak with her privately. During their conversation, Yoshino brings up the topic of Neko and pointedly asks Makabe what exactly happened between the two of them. Despite her curiosity and concern, Makabe remains tight-lipped, choosing not to disclose the details of what transpired. The situation takes a sudden turn when Neko's bodyguard unexpectedly arrives at the pool. She confronts Makabe in front of everyone, accusing him of having done something to Neko, who, to everyone's surprise and concern, has been missing since the previous night. The situation becomes even more serious when the bodyguard reveals that Neko had left without taking her essential seizure medication. This detail shocks Makabe, as he was completely unaware that Neko suffered from any kind of medical condition. His surprise quickly turns into confusion and distress as he begins to question why she would keep such an important part of her life hidden from him. The tension intensifies when the bodyguard further claims that she knows for a fact that Makabe and Neko had met alone at her apartment the previous day. This revelation stuns everyone present, leaving them speechless. With all eyes on him and nowhere to hide, Makabe feels cornered and emotionally overwhelmed. Realizing there's no point in continuing to avoid the truth, he finally speaks up. In a moment of raw honesty, he admits that he had indeed met with Neko and that he rejected her confession, making it clear that no matter what, his heart will always belong to Aki. Even with his reason, Aki didn't like that Makabe and Neko met alone in her apartment, so she completely ignores his confession and makes a plan to look for Neko, splitting the group into two, leaving Makabe to wander around alone, which really hurts him as he thinks she doesn't give a crap about him. While the girls stick together looking for Neko, Makabe searches for her alone but cannot find her. So he heads into the school thinking that maybe she is there, and to his surprise he runs into Aki, who had the same idea as himself. Also, he is shocked that she is so committed to finding Neko when she doesn't even like her. But Aki says that she feels bad for Neko because it sucks to be rejected by the boy she likes. This confuses Makabe even more since she rejected him and gave him a horrible nickname. She still currently continues to break the hearts of the boys who offer their feelings to her. He then decides to ask her if she remembers the nickname Pig's Foot, but she doesn't seem to understand what he's referring to. But before he can confront her, many paper planes suddenly begin to fall from the school roof, and Makabe figures that it is Neko since she was reading his favorite manga, and there is a scene where the protagonist is rejected, then makes paper airplanes with the love letters that she was never able to send him. Immediately, he dashes up to the roof and finds Neko with many letters that say, "I love you." She then tells him that she knew he would find her there, and he tells her not to do such a thing again, as she may not have the energy for that, which she proves correct as she suddenly falls in his arms. After that, Neko is taken to the hospital, and the guilt consumes Makabe since he rejected her without thinking about her feelings. He was only thinking about his revenge. While he's still overthinking his decision, her bodyguard tells everyone that Neko is stable and wants to talk to Aki alone, which stuns Makabe, causing him to panic more. After a while, Aki tells Makabe that Neko is waiting for him, and when he meets her, she says she's ready to come clean about everything. She reveals how she was very popular in her previous school, but people treated her like a charity case because of her ailment, and it turns out she was scheduled to have surgery abroad at her grandfather's request, but she asked him for time telling him that she wanted to fall in love first. So she chose a photo at random from a bunch of candidates, and that photo turned out to be Makabe. However, he does not remember having a photo with her and can't believe that this is all due to a random choice. Following this, she tells him that although she didn't manage to have a relationship with him, since everything was based on lies, he gave her the experience of a broken heart. Then she tells him that lies are always discovered and thanks him for all the lovely memories they had. Then, she says goodbye to him, since she will surely have to go away soon. Meanwhile, just outside of Neko's hospital room, an emotionally charged moment unfolds as Futaba gathers the courage to open up to Yoshino. With a mix of hesitation and vulnerability, she confesses that she too harbors feelings for Makabe. Despite the depth of her emotions, she admits that she is fully aware of the reality Makabe's heart belongs to Aki. The confession seems to weigh heavier on Shuri, who stands beside them, completely frozen in shock, her expression unreadable and her thoughts evidently racing. In the midst of this charged atmosphere, the door to Nico's room opens quietly. Makabe steps out, his face clouded with sadness and an unmistakable heaviness in his demeanor. He doesn't say a word to anyone. Without making eye contact or acknowledging those around him, he silently walks past the group and heads straight out of the hospital. Back inside the room, Neko remains seated, her bodyguard quietly approaching her with a concerned expression. He gently asks if she is truly okay with letting Makabe go, clearly aware of the emotional weight behind her decision. Nico, holding back her emotions, softly responds that it's the right thing to do. As she speaks, her gaze drops to a photograph she clutches in her hand, an old picture from their childhood. The image captures a moment from a formal family gathering, a party where both their families were present. It is then revealed that this is where they first met, though heartbreakingly, Makabe has no recollection of that day or the bond they once shared. Later at night, Aki can't stop thinking about Neko and how she assured her that she was totally rejected by Makabe, convincing her to accept his love. While thinking about love, Aki can't help but remember her crush from the past and how he was plump and cute. She thought of how she loved him so much that she blushed just thinking about him. Just then, a plump figure appears out of the shadows, introducing himself as her long-lost love. Meanwhile, Makabe's mom panics as he decides to leave home, but he claims her down, explaining to her and Shifuyu that he's just going on a camping trip to gain new muscles and reformulate his plan to make Aki fall for him. Back at Aki's house, the plump dude asks to talk to the head of the family, but he is greeted by Aki's father's assistant. He then hands him a letter which has been written by his grandfather, containing a promise from both families. This promise consists of marrying Aki and Gasu, which stuns everyone. Meanwhile, on a distant mountain, Makabe trains relentlessly and finally gains a higher-tier physique. A few days later, the second term begins and the students meet again. And as soon as Aki arrives at school, a boy asks her on a date, and she rejects him, earning admiration from her Girl Scouts who all praise her ability to crush hot guys. However, one of her disciples calls her out about Makabe and how she took him to a private island, spending lots of time with him, but she tries denying that fact. Just then, Gasu shows up and Aki starts melting like ice on a hot summer day. Seeing this, Aki's fans don't understand why she treats him kindly, as they expected her to torch him like the others, and they are shocked when Aki agrees to taking him to her private island someday, causing them to think she's just into chubby guys. On the other hand, Makabe arrives more toned than before and is shocked to meet Neko at school. She explains that she already had the surgery and the 1-month rest she took was enough for her to recover, which makes Makabe wonder why he was so worried about her in the first place. After that, he goes to look for Aki to give her a gift from the countryside, but is left speechless when he sees her talking to a chubby boy. And to make matters worse, the boy says that his nickname is Masamune, but he can call him Gasu. Not only that, he reveals that he and Aki are engaged, which destroys Makane. Hearing this, Makabe runs to talk to Yoshino and she tells him that she tried to call him several times but he had no reception on the mountain. She then informs him that she verified the letter with calligraphic tests and the letter is real, adding that the worst thing is that Aki took it well and she acts as if she is in love with the chubby dude. During the rest of the school day, Makabe observes Gasu and realizes that he is intelligent, kind, gets along well with boys and girls and makes Aki blush, something he has not been able to achieve with his muscular body. After seeing all this, he meets with Yoshino, ranting about how he doesn't understand why Aki gets along with Gasu when she gave him hell for being chubby when he was a child, so Yoshino apologizes, but he doesn't put the blame on her. On the other hand, Aki's fans gather to talk about Aki's strange behavior as she used to hate boys, but now she is stuck with Gasu. Just then, Hasu walks in and joins their conversation, confessing that he's engaged to Aki, but for him she's a goddess, and he does not intend to touch her or kiss her, and that calms the girls who decide to protect him instead. The next day, Makabe is distracted thinking about how to get to talk to Aki, which earns him a scolding from Futaba, who reminds him that they are choosing what to present at the school festival. He says that he'll agree to anything, and without knowing, he agrees to be the prince of the play where Shuri will be Snow White since he is prettier than the girls in the class. Later on, he tries to talk to Aki, but she easily gets rid of him and leaves with Gasu. The whole thing is observed by Aki's admirers who want to get rid of Makabe, since their goddess Aki will be safer with Gasu. The next day, the student council receives the proposals from the second grade students and notices that Class A and Class B have proposed doing the Snow White play. Since there cannot be two plays with the same theme, one of the classes must change the proposal, but both their representatives refuse to change. Since an Akai fan group member is in charge of the council, she turns down Futaba's proposal, and while she argues with the Aki fan, Ake shows up claiming that a Sleeping Beauty show where only men leads would be disastrous. They go back and forth and Makabe intervenes, saying that both classes should present Snow White, then put it to a vote and whoever wins will get to host their play, which they agree to. He then pulls Gasu aside to make a wager that whoever wins will get to dance with Aki at the afterparty, and Gasu accepts his challenge. The days go by and Futaba becomes more and more irritable with Shuri since he doesn't know how to act like a girl, and the play is the next day. Being tired of so many scoldings, Shuri runs away, and when Makabe goes after him, he runs into Gasu, who makes fun of Makabe, saying that he doesn't know how to treat girls unlike him who treats Aki so well, that she's falling in love with him more and more, giving an example of how he gives her chocolates every break, then scolds him for triggering Aki by wall slamming her, just because he saw it in some magazine. This crushes Makabe, who doesn't know what to say since it seems like he's getting advice from a pro, but he just makes up his mind to win and takes notes of what he said. At the end of the day, Aki and Gasu walk home together and he tells her that he ran into Makabe, but that puts her in a bad mood. So he quickly apologizes, which warms her heart, and she says while smiling that he has always been kind, which makes Gasu feel a bit guilty since he's not the chubby friend Aki remembers, and in reality, he comes from a very poor family. He thinks back to a year ago when he ran into Aki, who was still hung over Makabe at the time, and it occurred to him to use Makabe's identity to improve the living conditions of his family. But the only problem is that the real Makabe is getting in the way of his plans. At night, Makabe works out relentlessly in the cold, and even when his mother and sister try to cover him up, he's as stubborn as a donkey, trying to prove he's the peak of health. The following day, the whole school gathers for the school festival, and Makabe can't stop sneezing, because last night he climbed on the roof with little clothes to show his mom that he wasn't sick. But it was pretty chilly outside. Seeing that he may be falling sick makes him panic a bit, and just then, Neko meets him, Sweets talking him into following her to the infirmary to rest since the Battle of the Snow Whites will soon begin. She tells him that it doesn't matter if he does it wrong since she will be his dance partner at the afterparty, which she claims is a joke, and after covering him with a blanket, she goes to buy tea for both of them. On the other hand, Gasu mistakenly enters the girls' changing room to put on his clothes and immediately realizes that he made a mistake as the girls turn into Gatling guns, chasing him out. Suddenly, a strange figure shows up and tells him she knows a good spot for changing, which Gasu believes. Meanwhile, as Nico buys a drink for herself and Makabe, she runs into Shuri, who now has a crush on her. He tries to act manly but soon gives up on, and accompanies her to the infirmary to check on Makabe, but they're stunned to find that he has disappeared. Immediately, they run to tell Futaba, who begins to panic, but what they don't know is that he was taken by a Class A member. She tells Makabe that she plans to keep him there until the festival is over, which will mean Aki and Gasu dancing at the bonfire, which triggers Makabe. Meanwhile, as Class A's class rep think her plan has worked, Yoshino reports to Aki that Gasu is also lost, and the rep is frustrated because she thinks that Class B thought the same as her. This news makes Aki sad, and she thinks that he has left her for the second time before an important moment like many years ago, although no one suspects that Yoshino was the person that guided Gasu to a storage room and locked him there. Meanwhile, Makabe's captor tells him how she met Aki, stating how she was once defeated by a guy who cheated, and when he went to declare his love for Aki, she rejected him by calling him a coward. From that moment on, she had always admired Aki, a girl who can defeat someone with a single word. To guilt trip her into releasing him, Makabe tells her that she is also cheating by keeping him locked up there, and she agrees with him, so she unties him. But suddenly she receives a call from the rep who wants to talk to Makabe. The rep tells him that she proposes a tie between both plays on the condition that Makabe releases Gasu quickly, and Makabe figures that Yoshino was behind his disappearance, so he tells Mary that he does not accept the tie since Class A's play is about to start, while HEA class play will start in the afternoon, giving him a lot of time. With this, he is sure that his friends will find him, and he cuts off the call, which greatly frustrates the rep, and Aki talks to the rep, telling her that she will do the play alone since she has never needed a prince. On the other hand, Makabe manages to escape from his captor and tells his friends that they are about to win the battle of plays because Gasu is lost, but Shuri tells him that Class A's play has already started with Aki acting without a prince, causing Makabe to rush to the theater. Makabe enters the theater and is mesmerized by the play of Class A as its stage, and costumes are better than those of his class. Even Aki's performance is impeccable, and he tells Neko that they can't win, so he wants to ask Yoshino to free Gasu. But he soon discovers she's one of the 7 dwarfs who is on the stage. With no other option, he asks Neko for a favor, sending her to get his costume, then rushes behind the stage where he meets the rep. Immediately she spots him. She asks if he just wants to mock them and blames everything on Makabe, telling him that Aki carried the play alone on her shoulder, even though she knows that her prince will not arrive. Meanwhile, Aki gives her all until the scene where she falls asleep in the coffin, holding some flowers, and she remembers how in the past, she picked up a bouquet of flowers in her house and waited all day for her friend Masamune, but he never came. This makes her think that this situation will be the same, and the play will end with Snow White never waking up. As she accepts her fate, Makabe suddenly appears wearing his prince's suit, ready to save the play of Class A, which shocks everyone, and although he is very weak due to fever, he tries forcing himself to last until the kiss science, so the show would be a success. Fortunately for him, the dwarves understand that he is very sick and cover his lines, supporting him as he struggles to meet Aki. In the end, Yoshino gives him the final push so that he reaches Aki, who does not understand why Makabe is helping them, although she just wants him to complete the play, and she was expecting him to give her a fake kiss, not knowing she would receive a real kiss from him, shocking everyone in the crowd. She is so surprised that she punches him, launching him across the room like a ballistic missile, and everyone is left speechless. But Neko and the crew begin to applaud, and soon after, the audience follows them with the play finally ending. The next day, Keiko brings them together at a karaoke bar, announcing that Makabe and Aki won the awards for Best Heroes of the festival. This makes Futaba cry that her script was ruined without Makabe, and Gasu tries pointing out that he would have replaced Makabe. But Futaba immediately shuts him up, saying Makabe was a perfect pair with Shuri. After Aki calms them down, she asks why they're in such a small room for the after-party, which triggers Futaba, and Makabe steps in to prevent any fights, saying it is the only room available. Keiko suggests they have a singing competition as a way of truly settling the cultural festival beef. Just then, Aki becomes jealous as she spots Neko grabbing Makabe, and angrily says there's no need for the competition since they're sure to win. This makes Futaba crash out, and she says they'll participate in it, adding that the loser has to pay the tab. Following this, Keiko kicks off the competition, and Futaba volunteers to go first. Meanwhile, Makabe struggles to find a song for himself, and Shuri tries helping him out, but Keiko senses something is up with him. Futaba puts on a beautiful performance, getting a high score on the machine, which amazes everyone. This earns her a compliment from Aki, and she feels very proud of herself. Then Aki decides to go next. She sings better than Ariana Grande, topping Futaba's score, and everyone is left speechless. Afterward, they all start glazing her, and one by one, the rest take their turns. Soon after, Neko's turn arrives, and she says she's singing a heartbreak song because that's how she's feeling at the moment, making Makabe spaz out. As she sings, he feels very awkward. And in the meantime, Keiko notices that Makabe may not be accustomed to karaoke, so she plots to make him look pathetic while singing to make Aki lose interest in him. While Yoshino sings her song like R2-D2, Makabe excuses himself before his turn, and Sonoka, alongside her Patty, meets him outside before he can bail. They put him under a lot of pressure, and before he can reply, Aki shows up to save him, sending her minions to meet the others after scolding them. This makes Makabe think she still cares about him, but his hopes are crushed when he realizes she just stepped out to have a snack. When they return to meet the others, Aki is surprised to hear her favorite duet song come on, and Neko admits she did so, asking her to sing along with her. After the two put on an amazing show, they get into a fight, and everyone concludes that they can never see eye to eye. Finally, it gets to Makabe's turn and everyone calls him out, so he gathers the courage to sing, but when he finishes singing, he leaves the room in a lifeless state. After everyone flees the karaoke room, Makabe stays with Aki at a park close by while she waits for Yoshino to bring her food. He says that he won't leave her alone because he wants to make sure she is safe, and reminds her that she never thanked him for saving her from her, which triggers her. She realizes that he is right, and after trying to defend herself, she finally folds. Schlee saying that he can ask her for whatever he wants in gratitude, which stuns Makabe. In response, he asks her for a kiss, making Aki turn red, and she easily accepts. She then asks him to close his eyes, but instead of a kiss, he receives a roasted sweet potato. When Aki leaves, Yoshino scolds him for being so slow with his revenge, and tells him that he's very close to achieving it. This encourages Makabe, who is willing to do anything to make Aki fall in love with him, and then reject her just as she did. Comment down below, pig's foot, if you finished the video. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video.